Have you ever seen an airline announce this massive order for like 100 new planes, and then almost overnight you start seeing them at the airport? It's not magic, and a lot of the time they're not actually buying them. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the super high-stakes world of aircraft leasing. It's the hidden engine that really powers the entire airline industry.
So yeah, how do they get these massive fleets in the air so fast? Well, the answer is this powerful and kind of unseen secret weapon, leasing. Instead of dropping billions of dollars up front, airlines just lease their planes from these huge leasing companies. But, as you're about to see, not all leases are created equal, not even close.
Okay, let's get right into it. The very first big decision an airline has to make is choosing between a wet lease and a dry lease. And this choice really just boils down to a simple question. Do you want just the plane, or do you want the plane ready to fly, crew and all? It's all about control versus convenience.
And the main difference is, honestly, pretty simple. A dry lease is just what it sounds like. You get the aircraft. That's it. A wet lease, on the other hand, is the all-inclusive package. You get the plane, the pilots, the cabin crew, the maintenance, the insurance, the whole shebang. It's basically a turnkey airplane.
So, a wet lease, and you'll hear people in the industry call it an ACMI lease, is the ultimate convenience deal. ACMI stands for Aircraft, Crew, Maintenance, and Insurance. The leasing company, the lessor, they handle everything. The plane even flies under their license to operate, their air operator's certificate. This is absolutely perfect for short-term stuff, like covering a holiday rush or when one of your own planes is suddenly out for repairs.
Now, a dry lease is the total opposite. It puts the airline completely in the driver's seat. You get the physical plane, sure, but everything else. Hiring the pilots, scheduling maintenance, getting insurance, putting it on your own operating certificate, that's all on you. This is the go-to choice for big, established airlines that want total hands-on control over their brand and how they fly.
And looking at this chart, you can see those trade-offs become crystal clear. I mean, just look at how operational control and maintenance completely flip from one side to the other. But the biggest giveaway? It's the duration. Dry leases are serious long-term commitments. We're talking 6, 12, even more years. A wet lease? That could be for a single flight. It's a huge strategic choice between long-term integration and short-term get-me-out-of-a-jam flexibility.
So we've covered the operations, but what about the money? How does this all look on the balance sheet? Well, the financial side is just as strategic, which brings us to our next big topic. It's time to follow the money.
You know, for decades, airlines used a kind of lease that let them keep billions of dollars in debt off the books. It made them look a lot less indebted than they actually were. But then, on January 1st, 2019, everything changed. This new rule, called IFRS 16, came into effect and forced airlines to put all their lease obligations right there on the balance sheet. All of a sudden, investors got a much, much clearer picture of their true financial health.
Okay, so in this new, more transparent world, there are two main financial setups. Think of an operating lease like a simple rental agreement. It's shorter term and the leasing company always owns the plane. A finance lease, though, that's a lot more like a mortgage on a house. It's a long-term deal where pretty much all the risks and rewards of owning that plane get transferred to the airline, even if they don't technically hold the title.
Now let's talk about a real power play. What if an airline already owns its planes, but it needs a quick flood of cash? Well, that brings us to one of the smartest financial moves in the entire industry, the sale-leaseback. All right, this sounds way more complicated than it is. Let's break it down. Step 1, an airline owns a plane. Simple. Step 2, they sell that plane to a leasing company for a giant pile of cash. And then, step 3, they instantly lease that exact same plane right back. The plane never even leaves the fleet, passengers have no idea, but bam, the airline's financial situation just got a major facelift. So why on earth would they do this? What's the strategic edge? Well, first off, you get immediate cash, which is always king, right? It can fund expansion or just help you get through a rough patch. Second, you take a massive asset off your books, which makes your balance sheet look a lot cleaner. But honestly, the biggest reason is transferring risk. You no longer have to worry about what that plane is going to be worth in 15 years. That's the leasing company's problem now. And this chart just shows how much of a deliberate choice this is. It is not a one-size-fits-all thing. Just look at the difference. You've got a fast-growing airline like Wizz Air using this strategy for 100% of their new planes. Then you have an established giant like Delta using it for 0%, a big fat zero. It really all just comes down to your financial strategy, your credit rating, and how much risk you're willing to stomach. So from operational control to some pretty slick financial engineering,
We've seen that how an airline gets its planes is really just a series of super critical strategic decisions. Let's wrap this all up with the final takeaway.
You know, this quote from our source material just hits the nail on the head. It really says it all. Every single one of these decisions is a trade-off. Do you want to pay more for the convenience of a ready-to-go solution, or do you take on all the work yourself to keep your direct costs down? There's just no single right answer. And ultimately, that's what it all comes down to. Every single time an airline signs a lease for a plane, it's performing this really delicate balancing act. It's weighing control against convenience and cost against long-term financial risk.
This choice of lease, it dictates everything. Who hires the pilots, who maintains the engines, and who actually owns the multi-million-dollar machine you're about to sit in. So, the next time you board a flight, take a look at the airline's name on the side of the plane. And maybe just wonder for a second, who's really pulling the strings behind the scenes?